And welcome back to Better Horses Radio. I can't tell you how much we appreciate all our listeners out there. And this radio show's been going on for over 20 years. We're going to talk about something very special to my heart. But before we get started, this segment is brought to you by Kleinsmith's Western Wear. They're located in Higginsville, Missouri. And I want to tell you, if you checked out anything, this is something you need to check out. They have over 30,000 pairs of boots, 200 brand names, and a 40,000 square foot building. And if you want the largest selections of boots and Western wear, it's extensive, and it's located in Higginsville, Missouri. For those that are not out in the Missouri area, you're more than welcome to check out their website. And if you can't spell like I can't, it's called kleinboot.com. That's Klein boot.com. Kleinsmith's Western Wear. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, everyone loves to go to Montana, and everybody loves to go to Wyoming, and it's a great place to ride, and it's a good place to do cattle ranching. But not everyone's heard of the Flint Hills. Now, if you haven't heard of the Flint Hills, it's one of the largest tall grass prairies left in the world today. And you can experience this on horseback. And for everybody to get geography together, the prairie and the tall grass is located in central North America, centered around Kansas and northern Oklahoma. In fact, we're going to talk to someone who is the co-owner of the Flinthills Ranchin Adventures. He's a professional horse trainer. And welcome to our show, Matt Job. Matt, welcome to the show.
Howdy, y'all. Thank you.
So, Matt, I got to tell you, I'm excited about this because, everyone gets excited about going out west, but there is something really special out here in the Flint Hills that very few people get to experience, and you're kind of the ringleader of introducing the Flint Hills to a lot of people on horseback.
Yes, sir. I love being out in the Flint Hills. I am from Missouri. However, I have a partnership with Rex Bookman, and we run a lot of cattle for a lot of people. And we take out a lot of customers, and they get to do ranching, real live ranching for a couple of days, and get to see what we do and how we do it and how it was done 100 years ago.
So talk to me about Flint Hills Ranchin Adventures. This is kind of somewhat of an organized event, is it not?
Yes, sir, it is. So the Flint Hills itself has 4 million acres, and it stretches all the way down to Oklahoma. And it's known for blue stem grass and some of the best prairie grasses there are. And so cattle come in from everywhere, like cattle. You mentioned Montana. Oftentimes we have cattle down here from Montana, so a bunch of yearlings. And it's pretty easy for them to gain 2.3 pounds per day on just this prairie grass and untouched, nothing else. And so that's a big deal. However, it's only good for about 6 months out of the year, just the growing season. And so what we do at Flint Hills Ranchin Adventures, we're taking care of these cattle anyway. My partner Rex has some of his own cattle out there. He lives out there. Well, what we do is we're doing our jobs horseback. There's a lot of places in these Flint Hills that you cannot get to by trucks or four-wheelers anyhow. And so we utilize our horses every day. Well, we invite guests to come out, and we take guests on 2-day events. And those 2-day events range from anything to we brand in the spring and fall. We also, like I mentioned, these cattle come in from everywhere. We have to drive them out via pushing them with horses, drive them out to their summer pasture. And that may be 10 miles away. We have a drive that's 17 miles away.
Now, a lot of people can't visualize this, but you can imagine being on horseback, and it's literally a sea of prairie where you can't see anything else. And it's just you and the cattle. And so you break that down into cattle drives and branding. And talk to me about the cattle drives. Where are we going, and how much of a group of people do you take that are experienced and inexperienced?
Yep. So we have our core group that works on the ranch. So we can pretty much handle whatever has to be handled. But we typically invite 10 guests to come along. And how that plays out is on day one, we teach them about cattle handling, how we want to handle our cattle. And we teach them about cattle handling, make sure they're mounted well. Most of them bring their own horses. We do have horses for rent if need be. We just kind of fill them out, see their riding ability, because we'll pretty much help anyone, whether they're beginner all the way to advanced. Teach them how to read cattle, how a cow's going to move, what they're thinking, and kind of get a handle on the cattle day one. And then day two, we'll be up early. And in the spring, we drive them out to the grass, 10 to 17 miles, depending on where their pasture is. And like you mentioned, these pastures are huge. You know, over in Missouri, we have a lot of, 100 acres, 200 acres, even some 400 or 500 acre pastures. Out in the Flint Hills, it's hard to find a pasture that small. You'd almost call it a trap, not a pasture. And so a lot of these pastures we go in start at 2,000 acres, 5,000 acres, we even go into one 10,000 acre pasture. And when you're crossing those 5 and 10,000 acre pastures, you don't even see a fence line. You don't see a tower. You don't see a road. You don't see anything. Just God's beautiful country, beautiful rolling hills. And it's pretty amazing out there.
Now, break that down as to horse ownership. I get out there for the very first time. We've seen this a number of times. Horses get very, very excited when they see that much open land. How long does it take for them to calm down before they get settled in?
Yeah, so every horse is different. And that's one thing Rex and I like to focus on. We like to help people with their horsemanship. They're coming to, drive cattle and experience some of the old ways. But to us, you have a lot more fun on a horse if you're having safety on your horse. And so we spend a lot of time communicating with them. Every horse is different, so we try to help them. Sometimes they need to, move different body parts of the horse. Sometimes they need to zigzag in the back, driving the cattle. That's a good way on a high energy horse. Sometimes they simply need to get out of the horse's way. Sometimes they're holding the horse too tight and the horse is building more and more anxiety. And so we like to take some one-on-one time as we're traveling across there and help the individuals with their horsemanship that need it and that want it.
So you talked about your driving cattle. I mean, you're on your horseback for a long ways. I mean, we're talking what, 17 to 20 miles, just one way driving cattle?
Yes, sir. Every drive's different. Like I said, they range from 10 to 17 miles. And, but yes. And, everyone always asks, how long will this take? Well, it's kind of up to the cattle.
Yeah.
Sometimes we've had some great cattle in the spring. Sometimes we've had some awful cattle in the spring that just unloaded off the truck. They've never seen a horse, probably haven't seen a whole lot of human. And, it takes longer whenever you're scattering them across 10,000 acres. And, so yes, but to answer your question, kind of average, you can usually get it done in 6 or 7 hours.
There you go. So you're doing branding, you're doing cattle driving, you're doing roping. And then all of a sudden, if you get really, really good, you put together something that is called the Cowboy Camp Competition.
Yes, sir. And so we'll back up 1 second here. The opposite of our spring drives is our fall drives.
There you go.
So the fall drives, the cattle are already out there. They've already had their summer pasture, but now it's October, grass isn't growing. We need to get them off and ship them wherever they're going. Sometimes yearlings are going to feedlots. Sometimes they're going to their new owners. Sometimes they're replacement heifers and they're just going back to the ranch they came from. And so the fall drives are just reverse. We'll start 17 miles away or 12 miles away, and we'll bring them back to different pens that we can load them into semis and ship them where they're going. So same thing, just reverse.
There you go. So
yes,
yeah, then you go right into it. I took that away from you. Talk to me about the Cowboy Camp Competition. What is that all about?
yes. So I've competed in EXCA and UHCA and stuff like that, where it's an obstacle competition, and always had a lot of fun doing that. And I wanted it to be, sometimes some competitions get a little more and more showy. And so, you got to have things that people can see in the cameras and the videos. So sometimes they get noodles out and they get different things like that. And I wanted to have a competition that was just purely ranch related. And so this will be our 4th year. And so 4 years ago, I said, hey, let's do Cowboy Camp Competition. And we call it a Cowboy Camp because it's also educational. We take people out for 4 days and 4 nights. And so we set up camp. And every morning, someone's cooking breakfast over the open fire. That's actually one of the competitions. And we eat that day. and then we get to work. So we're normally riding over the hills as the sun's coming up. An amazing, beautiful sight, by the way. And then we're going about our daily competition. So each day we have at least one competition. And what we do is we educate them on how we do it. So like there's always cattle to sort. There's always strays in our pasture or someone else's pasture. So usually we'll have like a sorting competition. We show them how we sort, and then one at a time, we teach each individual there in the competition. There's normally we accept 12 applicants. So one at a time, they will sort cattle, and then we'll judge them on it. And so at the end of the day, whoever had the high score, they win the prize for that particular event. Now this goes on for 4 days. So we'll have different things like roping, we'll have sorting, we'll have an obstacle competition, but it will be all ranch related. Like you'll be going through creeks, and we do shoot guns because if you know anything about me, you know that I love mounted shooting. So there will be guns involved, and that's pretty cowboy. I mean, we started cowboying with guns. And so over the course of the 4 days, we'll have half a dozen competitions, and these competitions will all be scored. There'll be prizes awarded for each competition. And then at the end, we award a top hand and top 3 places. But the top hand leaves with a belt buckle saying he's top hand, she's a top hand. They'll leave with all kinds of prizes. I have some big prizes this year, but I can't release them just yet because we're finalizing and with the vendors and such. But there's going to be some amazing prizes this year. And throughout that time, we have, build great friendships, great bonds. At nighttime, we have campfires. Sometimes we have different people come in and play guitar and sing and different things. And we really learn a lot. We really build better horses, and we really have a good time doing it.
You're listening to Matt Job at the Flinthills Ranching Adventures, and we're talking about the Flint Hills today. Now, as we walk through this and I listen to you, the first thing coming through my mind is, how do I prepare for this on my horse before I get out there? And what type of experience do I need before I get out there? Now, I'm not talking about the cowboy camp. Now, I know you've got a lot of driving and you've got a lot of branding going on. As a trainer, anything that you should suggest to these teams coming out here for the very first time?
Yeah, just basically ride your horse and get better communication with them. And I hate the word broke, but we all know the word broke. Get them more broke. And by that, I mean, get them more trained. They shouldn't just be a mess. They should, when you pick up on a rein, they should give to that rein. When you add a leg on, it shouldn't mean, hey, run 90 miles an hour. It should mean, hey, I need to scoot over. I need to get off your leg. And so many simple things that we overlook, that makes a better horse. And then whenever you get out here in a situation, you can control your horse. You can get your horse doing what you want it to do. And so like I said earlier, we'll take all levels and we'll work with whatever level they are. And we can even rent them a horse. But the more prepared you are as far as riding your horse, using your horse, introducing it to obstacles, introducing it to cattle, just introducing it everywhere you can, and getting it to respond to your legs, to your hands, to your seat. Makes a lot better horse. It makes it a whole lot easier to go have fun on.
Now, if you're listening to this segment here with Matt Job, the first thing you're going through, okay, when can I go do this? So let's get some details here. Going to grass, I'm assuming that's going to be your first cattle drive, will be April 28th through the 29th. And then you're going to follow that up on the 30th with a 17-mile drive. And then on March 5th and 6th, you're going to go into some branding. And then
you're May.
Sorry, I said March, right? Thank you. That's why you corrected me. So in May 5th and 6th, that'll be branding. And then the cowboy camp competition that you mentioned is going to be June 14th through the 17th. And that's all going to be at the Flint Hills. Matt, how can they get details of getting a hold of you and signing up for these events? What's the first place they have to go to?
Yes, sir. So we only run a Facebook page, and it is Flinthills Ranchin, no G on the end of it, Flinthills Ranchin Adventures. And so all the details are on there, or feel free to call me, Matt Job, at 660-537-9542. Be glad to answer any questions you have and get you hooked up.
And to go full transparency on the Flinthills Ranchin Adventures, to get an idea of cowboy camp, you can go to our YouTube channel and check out the cowboy camp competition that we actually featured on the Better Horses TV show. And we had Matt Job in there. It is truly a great event. You get to be one with your horse. And if you talk about bonding with your horse for 4 days in June, this is the thing to go to. And again, we're talking about the Flint Hills Ranch and Adventures. We're talking about the Flint Hills. We're talking about professional horse trainer Matt Job. Get a hold of him. And if there's anything I can tell you that this is something new and different. And Matt, your final closing, I want to ask you a question. If I just have an arena horse, and I know you gave us all those great prep, but I'm still a candidate to get out there. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay. Matt, thank you for
So,
joining us.
yep.
We appreciate that. I know you're out there. You're going to about get out there and go riding, and you're out there standing in your indoor arena. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate you breaking for us.
You bet. Happy to be here.
All right, everyone. Well, stay with us. You're going to hear more about Better Horses Radio. We've got some great guests coming up right after this, right after these messages. I'm Ed Adams, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dylan Luter, a specialist in equine performance medicine.